This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Fanalysts Fantasy Football Podcast. My God, that's a mouthful. Okay.
Well, that's what she said.
This is a pretty fun week 4, but we decided today we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we are going to administer report cards. Rookie report cards, that is.
Principals today.
It's the
Or
first
teachers.
quarter. It's the first quarter. You get your first quarter report cards. You have to take it home to your mom to sign. We'll see what the rookies get.
We got a couple rookie report cards to have their parents hang on their fridge if if it's worth it. Obviously, we still have our starts and sits. That's no different. But as Andrew mentioned, we are going to kick things off this week with the report cards for the. We decided to go with 10 rookies. We decided to go with 10 rookies. We cut a couple of them out just because obvious reasons they're not really involved, or just we wanted a nice round number, and 10 felt like it was a good number to go with. So to kick things off here. Before we get into that, I know I said we were going to kick things off with it, but I lied. Before we get into that, I figured we'd just run through some quick injury news, unless you want to do that after, and then I double lied, and we're going to start with the rookie report cards.
I mean, we already promised them we're starting with it, so we might as well just start with it.
All right, I double lied. Let's go. 2 for 2. Okay, so to kick things off with the rookies, I think
What position you want to start with?
Let's start with the quarterbacks.
Start with the quarterbacks.
Obviously, Tua hasn't really played.
Nope.
He hasn't really gotten any kind of opportunity.
No, sir.
We didn't think Justin Herbert was going to get an opportunity early on in the season. We didn't expect to see him until like week 6, week 7, maybe week 8. But an injury, or should I say medical malpractice issue with Tyrod Taylor, led to Justin Herbert getting the call early. So I say we start off with him.
Okay.
Justin Herbert, rookie quarterback for the Chargers. What grade, Andrew, would you give him to start this year?
Yeah. In 3 games, the man is averaging over 300 yards passing, and he's got 5 touchdowns over 3 games. The interceptions, he's thrown an interception each game, which hurts your fantasy score a little bit. But through 3 games, he's proved to be a quarterback that you could, probably a back-end QB1, probably around 10 to 12 range, a quarterback that you could start every single week if you didn't grab one of the top-tier quarterbacks. Obviously, I can't quite give him an A, but I'll go B+ for Justin Herbert.
B+. I'm going to go A-. Being a rookie quarterback in this league is one of the most difficult things you can do.
That's true.
And he has not only moved into this slot, moved into that position, moved into the starting role sooner than we thought, but also on a shortened offseason. So he's had the deck stacked against him. And this past week, going up against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and all their weapons galore, he went toe-to-toe with them.
Yeah.
290 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. He does have a pick each week. He's got to get that number down. It is a rookie that is something that rookies do, is throw a lot of picks. But his QBR on the season's 102.2. And when the QBR is that high, that means that you're getting fantasy points out of the guy. And as you mentioned, he's averaging 300 yards a game passing to go with the 5 touchdowns. He's a guy that, honestly, I would absolutely have on my team in a keeper situation or in a dynasty situation. And he's even useful right now on, any given week as an every week quarterback, like you mentioned. So I go with an A- just because he's far exceeded my expectations for him this year alone.
Yeah. The next QB the only other QB on the docket is Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow has put up very similar numbers to Justin Herbert through weeks 2 through 4 when Justin Herbert was playing. But Joe Burrow also has that week 1, which wasn't very pretty. No touchdowns, 1 interception, less than 200 yards passing. So for weeks 2 to 4, I actually put him just right on par with Justin Herbert. Maybe a notch ahead, maybe like an A-, but honestly, because of week 1, I can't give a full A-. Like, I can't even get it back in A range. So I'm honestly going B+ for both these guys.
I must be a little bit nicer of a teacher than you, because I'm going also with an A- here. And again, this is because he exceeded my expectations. And it's not like, and honestly, Justin Herbert's got the better weapons in LA than Joe Burrow does in Cincy. I mean, Tyler Boyd hasn't been all that great. He doesn't have.
Tyler Boyd's been good. So is T. Higgins recently.
Oh yeah, you're right. Tyler Boyd.
AJ Green has not been all that great.
But T. Higgins has been quite nice. But none of those guys are Keenan Allen like. None of those guys are as good as Keenan Allen. He doesn't have a tight end as good as Hunter Henry. He does. I mean, Joe Mixon has started off very slow. Obviously, had a big week this week. But I'll take Austin Eckler over Joe Mixon right now. Also.
Yeah.
So. I like the weapons that Justin Herbert's got to throw the ball to. However, Joe Burrow's put up, honestly, the better numbers. And if you really want to look at it, it's in the same amount of time that Justin Herbert has because the numbers, like you mentioned, week 1 was not good for Joe Burrow. He didn't throw a touchdown. He threw a pick. He only threw 193 yards. But Joe Burrow through 4 weeks so far is 1,121 yards, 6 touchdowns, and only 2 picks. So he's one better in touchdowns and one better in picks. That right there tells, and he's obviously got the 200 more yards in him. So that right there tells me he's off, hit the ground running and off to a really hot start. In the past 3 games, he's got over 300 yards passing, a touchdown or more in each. He had 1 this past week against the Jags. Not a great game, but they really focus on the run. 2 touchdowns in a pickless game against the Eagles, and then 3 touchdowns, no picks against the Browns in the interstate battle there. So I got to say Joe Burrow in my books also got an A- here, just because, again, he's exceeded my expectations for what I would see a rookie quarterback do. A 3-to-1 ratio for touchdown interceptions out of a rookie quarterback is something that you never expect. Never expect, and Joe Burrow's got that right now. So he's another one that I would absolutely be looking to keep on my roster for years to come, as well as he's a guy that I can trust week in and week out.
All right, let's move on to the running backs. Thinking we start with the highest pick of the running backs, which would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Nick, I'm gonna let you take this one to start.
Man, if we were just going off week 1, I'd say A+.
Right. But that week 1 got you so hyped.
Oh, I know, but boy, have things changed. I'm going to go with, and in all honesty, that Houston defense is terrible. So obviously getting off to a hot start against Houston was something that we now look at and say, oh, is it really all that impressive? Because looking at the 2 defenses he's faced that are a little bit better against running backs in the Chargers and the Ravens, he wasn't very good. I'm going to go with a flat C here for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was picked in the first round. He's not giving you first round type numbers right now. He's only got 1 touchdown on the year. He really hasn't broken a big run like we've hoped he would. His longest run came in week 1 of 27 yards. His average the last 2 weeks is under 4. He really hasn't been able to make a play in the last couple of weeks, and it's not been very good. Yes, he's got some involvement in the passing game. He did have 5 catches for 70 yards this past week against the Ravens and 6 for 32. So in PPR leagues, that obviously inflates the numbers a little bit. However, him not scoring is something that is very concerning to me because he is their lead back there. So I'm going to go with a flat C here. He's not quite meeting my expectations, especially if it weren't just for the fact that he's a rookie. Like if it were just any player, any running back drafted in the first round in fantasy drafts putting up these numbers, I'd be extremely disappointed and honestly a little bit nervous right here. Yeah. So I would definitely worry about that. Obviously, he's playing right now up against the Pats. But so we'll see how that's going to turn out as well. But again, I'm not overly excited about his start to the year.
I agree with you on this. I want to point out that he was drafted as the RB7 in most leagues. And right now in a half point PPR league, he's returning you RB20 numbers. So just on that alone for the first quarter of the season, I can't give him an above average grade. At best, I can give him C range, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of the Houston game, and I'm going to agree with you and go C.
Just to update you as well, so far tonight, with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, he's got 9 carries for 37 yards, so the average is a little bit better, still not good, and 3 catches for 27 yards. So he's only got 12 touches tonight, which is something that I would consider to be a little bit concerning too.
12 touches in you said the first quarter, though?
With 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
Oh, I thought you said first quarter.
No,
that's quarter. Impressive, though, no. The first quarter.
No. Let's just say this game so far is a snooze fest.
Yep.
It's a 6-3 ball game.
Well, the Patriots are starting Brian Hoyer.
Yes.
At the QB position. So.
Yes. So, but I'm not loving what Clyde Edwards-Helaire has done to start the year.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Let's keep train moving.
Jonathan Taylor. Let's go with him next. The Colts starting running back who really has taken over that backfield since Marlon Mack went down with an injury. Andrew, I'll let you take this one.
Jonathan Taylor is a really interesting case. Week 1, like he didn't do much in very limited touches, but then Marlon Mack goes down and Jonathan Taylor kind of explodes on waiver wires and in leagues. He had 26 carries for over 100 yards and a touchdown in against Minnesota. Biggest perplexing moment of them all was this Sunday where Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins combined for 18 carries and Jonathan Taylor got 17 carries. How is he losing share in this backfield? I don't know. But with that, his rookie grade for me is slipping. It peaked at week 2 and it's continuing to slip. I'm going to go. I can't honestly give him more than I gave Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But at the same time, you have to factor in where he was drafted. He was drafted much later than Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
He also, in all honesty, is actually performing better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is. He's got the extra touchdown. He's got a better average. He isn't seeing the ball as much, but he is performing slightly better as a running back. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's got the passing game going for him that Jonathan Taylor doesn't, but he is as a running back.
He's returning better. Running back 14 value right now. I'm going to go B- for Jonathan Taylor.
I'm kind of hovering right around C+, B-. I'll stick with the B- just because I do think he's a guy who is going to keep the stranglehold on that backfield and continue to get opportunities. He was drafted later than Clyde Edwards-Helaire in fantasy leagues, and he's kind of stepped up to fill in more of an RB2 for you, a high-end RB2, like you mentioned. He's RB14 right now, so he's a guy that I look to be I am pretty confident in. So I'll go B- here. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and inflate the grade a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so we wanted DeAndre Swift, the local Detroit running back. It's hard to judge him.
Because he isn't getting opportunity.
Yeah, but you got to judge him from the fantasy end, and on the fantasy end, it's like a D. He's like you can't play him.
You're not wrong. It is like a D. He isn't a guy you can play right now. He really just doesn't touch the ball. And obviously this past week he got a little bit more involved in the offense, but he's still not fantasy relevant. He's a guy you'd keep on your roster for dynasty leagues, and obviously you hope to see him explode. He's a guy who sit at the back end of your bench, but from what I'm seeing right now, I'm not exactly excited about what DeAndre Swift has given me, considering, the high hopes he had going into the year.
Yeah. All right. Last guy that we have in the running back position is Zach Moss. And I'm almost tempted to give Zach Moss an incomplete because
he's missed every game.
he played weeks 1 and some of week 2, and then he wasn't that impressive outside the lone touchdown he got. He wasn't impressive in his starts. So it's between like an incomplete and a D for me on Zach Moss. I was expecting much more from him, at least in the time that he was playing.
I'm not going to disagree with you. And I do think it is a little bit more difficult for a guy like Zach Moss than some of these other guys because of the fact that he's competing for touches with an already young and solid running back in Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
So it's hard to give him a good grade because of that. He hasn't really taken that backfield at all, and then he's been hurt. I am going to go with a D here. I'm not going to go quite D-, but I am going to go with a D here. He's not a guy that you can really trust to be up towards the top of your lineup right now. He's not even really a guy you can play, obviously considering he's hurt, but there is some hope there as he gets healthy. I hope to see him a little bit more involved, mainly to keep the weight off of Devin Singletary so he doesn't get hurt as well. But you hope Zach Moss becomes a little bit more relevant. So I'm going to go with a flat D. I do have one more running back I want to throw out there.
Whoa.
Yes.
Curveball.
Yes, curveball. It's Antonio Gibson.
Ooh, yeah, we forgot to mention Antonio Gibson. We did
forget to mention Antonio Gibson, running back for the Washington football team. Andrew, what do you give him for a grade to start this year?
He's been very touchdown reliant. He hasn't gotten the volume that everyone was expecting once Washington cut Adrian Peterson. He has been getting a decent amount of carries, but nothing crazy. I believe he's been averaging around 11 carries a game.
Just about, yes. Actually, exactly 11 a game.
So,
and he only has one game over 50 yards rushing.
Exactly, but he has 3 touchdowns. So, like, you're getting the goal line carries there. So he has been getting you a decent amount of fantasy points. Nothing crazy, about I think it was 12.5 point average. I'm gonna put him at a C+.
That's exactly where I got him. The one thing about Antonio Gibson is he does also have 10 catches for 98 yards, which isn't a huge number, but in a PPR league, it does help the numbers a little bit. He is touchdown reliant, but the fact that they are giving him the opportunity to get those touchdowns is obviously big, especially for a rookie running back. So I'm going to go with a C+. I do think he can be better if given more opportunity. He's still got to make the most of the opportunities he's getting too, though. Yeah, so let's switch it to wide receivers. I'll start things off here with a guy who there were some big expectations for him and big shoes to fill in wide receiver Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, filling the role of Stephon Diggs in that Vikings offense. Andrew, what kind of grade would you give just Justin Jefferson here this year?
I was ready to throw an F out after 2 weeks, but Jesus, was that a turnaround in weeks 3 and 4. And basing off weeks 3 and 4 and the outlook I see after that, you still have to dock him on the first 2 weeks, but his weeks 3 and 4 was so strong, I got to go A- for Justin Jefferson.
The first 2 weeks were definitely a little bit, not even a little bit, terrifying. Straight up, I dropped him. And then he has the Tennessee game, and I immediately ran to pick him back up. I did get him. I did.
I had the number 1 waiver in my league, and I could have sworn I put a waiver in, but I didn't.
Should have. You should have.
I woke up in the morning to see that I get him, and I'm like, what the? How did I not get him? Did I have a waiver in? I was like, son of a...
The one thing I will say that is concerning me a little bit about Justin Jefferson is the lack of targets. He did have the one big target game against the Titans where he had 9, but other than that, he's never had a game more than 5. So that is a little bit concerning to me. So he is a big play guy. I mean, even against the Texans, he averaged 25.8 yards per reception, which is a large number. So I don't know if that's quite sustainable. So I hope to see him get a little bit more involved, get more receptions. But in the past 2 weeks, he has had a very solid game. I'm going to go with a B+ for Justin Jefferson. Those first 2 weeks, I will dock him. And the lack of targets is hurting a little bit. But the past 2 games, he's been absolutely a monster. So I'll go with a B+. Want to take the next guy?
Yeah, we're going to go with Brandon Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk. He's kind of an interesting one. And the reason is because he contributes in 2 different positions.
Yeah.
He runs the ball, but he also catches the ball.
He's got 2 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 weeks.
He has. He is a little bit touchdown reliant in that regard. He doesn't, he hasn't really had a big opportunity to make a lot of big plays in the passing game. He did have a solid week against the Giants, 5 catches for 70 yards. He's a guy that I would be looking to target on a waiver wire right now because that's probably where he is in most leagues. But is he a guy that I'm trusting week in and week out to start? Most likely not. I'm going to go with a B- because he has exceeded my expectations a little bit, but he's not blowing me away by any stretch of the means.
Yeah, I'm almost right there with you. I'm at a B, and I agree. And I think part of what bumps my grade up there a little bit is the dual utility you're getting out of Brandon Ayuk. I would love to see him get changed to wide receiver running back in fantasy leagues. If they could designate him as that'd be awesome.
They
just
really
like
should.
Cordero Patterson.
Yep, Cordero Patterson's guy who had that. There was a couple of guys who we've seen get that.
Ty Montgomery back in the day.
Montgomery had it. Yep.
So I'm gonna go with Sal B because I think that that dual utility is huge, and he has been producing. He's giving you almost 12 fantasy points a game. So.
It definitely does help the usage numbers when you can use the guy in more than one way.
Yeah.
Let's go on here. Let's move on to Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos receiver. He's a guy that I would have hoped and expected to take a big step up once they lost Courtland Sutton, and he really hasn't. This past week, 2 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. That's touchdown reliant by definition. He did have, a little bit higher of a usage game against the Bucs, 5 for 55, and then 4 for 62, 4 for 56. He hasn't really done anything to jump off the page at all like we expected him to. And I know he doesn't have his primary starting quarterback throwing him the ball right now, but he's not doing enough to get himself open. I'm going to go with a C- for Jerry Jeudy, maybe even a D+. He just hasn't quite been what I was hoping he would be to start the year. Yeah, especially with Courtland Sutton.
I'm going to firm D+ for Jerry Jeudy is where I am. The only reason I gave him a little bit higher than what I gave DeAndre Swift, even though they've kind of put up similar numbers, is because DeAndre Swift was the guy that you drafted in the middle rounds of drafts, and Jerry Jeudy was in the back, 2 undrafted. So
yes, absolutely. Take the next one.
All right. Final receiver, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, the third receiver on the Cowboys. And part of the reason I was a little bit worried going into the season about how much you could rely on him, but he's been pretty big. A little inconsistent, but huge. Especially this week. 2 touchdowns, 5 catches, 79 yards. I really like him. I'm going to go B+ on CeeDee Lamb.
I'm going to go A-. And the reason is because he wasn't a guy that was drafted to be as good as he's been.
Yeah.
His usage pretty much stays the same week in, week out. He's had 5 or 6 catches every single week. He's able to make the big play. He's got a long of 43 yards and 37 in another game, 33 in another. So he's able to make the big play. He gets you consistent yardage with the potential for a big breakout yardage game. And he can obviously also score the ball. And obviously with that Cowboys offense, somebody's always going to be open because they do have very solid receiving group, and CeeDee Lamb seems to be a beneficiary of that quite a bit. And they're going to throw the football a lot, which boosts CeeDee Lamb's value even more.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
No, I'm bumping him an A-.
I'm going to go with an A- here. He's looked pretty damn good to start the year, and I think that's going to continue.
So verdict is, I don't know about you, but in general, no one really has blown you away from the rookies.
Not at all.
Like the A- were the only 2 A- I gave were Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. I know you gave A- to Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. But for me, like an A- means you're good. Like you're better than expected, but you're not a fantasy winner. I don't think any of these rookies are fantasy winners quite yet. I think they could develop it. Like I think Justin Jefferson could develop into a fantasy winner for you.
Absolutely, I think he could. I think CeeDee Lamb's got that potential too. Obviously, this past week he was a big target.
Jonathan Taylor could they actually give him the ball.
Agreed 100%. Jonathan Taylor's a guy that I was hoping would blow me away. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a guy I was hoping would blow me away. Honestly, the most impressive this year, the ones who have surprised me the most, are the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I never expected a rookie quarterback to not only be a guy I can rely on week in and week out, but be as good as they've been. So
watch Tua come out halfway through the season to be even better than Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome and make me as a Lions fan very, very sad.
Yep.
But no, I've been most impressed with the quarterback play amongst the rookies, and then probably followed by Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Obviously, just because of the grades, but quarterbacks have not quite blown me away, but have surprised me quite a bit. Shall we jump into some fantasy news here?
Yeah, we should make it quick because that took a little while.
It did. It did.
So let's just hit on some injuries real quick. So to start, you have Nick Chubb out 6 weeks. You have Austin Eckler with a hammy that he couldn't even get himself onto the cart.
No, he literally looked like he was dying on the sideline.
So he's probably going to be out for an extended period with that hamstring injury.
Another hammy injury. Telling you it's COVID.
I know there's one more. I'm blanking.
Mike Evans got hurt.
Yeah.
He got hurt. He did come back.
He came back, though.
He did, but he was banged up the rest of the game. You saw when he caught his touchdown pass, he came down kind of awkwardly, and then the defensive back kind of rolled over top of him as well, and he was pretty much limping towards the sideline. He did not look fantastic once he came back from the injury. So I would pay attention to that moving forward, especially considering both Godwin and Evans are banged up right now. Godwin missing another game, so that's something to take a look at as well.
And Tampa lost O.J. Howard for the year to an Achilles.
Yes, they did.
But let's take it one by one real quick. We'll just fly through these a little bit. Nick Chubb. As a Nick Chubb owner, first of all, I hope you have Kareem Hunt.
I would too, because Kareem Hunt is a stud and was the clear. I liked Kareem Hunt going into the season.
Dude, I started Kareem Hunt last week.
Honestly, he's an every week start at this point. Yeah. He's a guy you can rely on every single week almost. Yeah, and especially now.
But between Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson, who we're going to talk about a little bit more in the waivers, Dearness Johnson have gained 13 carries for 95 yards. How do you see this backfield splitting out?
I see it being a little Kareem Hunt's going to get utilized much more in the passing game than Dearness Johnson is. I do think that Kareem Hunt's still probably the number one guy, but he's going to see a lot more. He's going to see more snaps and more touches but you may see more carries go to Dearness Johnson. Just to give Kareem Hunt a spell. But a lot of passing downs a lot of those dump off routes will go to Kareem Hunt that don't go to Dearness Johnson, and he will still get double-digit carries as well. So you will see Hunt get the majority of the touches, even if Dearness Johnson gets the carries. So I think Kareem Hunt's the guy to own in that backfield, but definitely don't sleep on Dearness Johnson at all.
Agreed. If you're the Nick Chubb owner and you didn't have your insurance in Kareem Hunt, that's going to be the guy you want to go out and get. But now, Austin Eckler going down. You have Justin Jackson, Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly has been having some fumble issues. He has not looked as good as he looked in week 1. He had 9 carries to Justin Jackson's 6. However, Justin Jackson's 1.5 yard per carry average is better than Joshua Kelly's 0.8 yards per carry average. This is sad. I'm sorry. If you're the Austin Eckler owner, who are you taking between these two? Justin Jackson's easily more widely available than Josh Kelly. But
he is. I'm honestly rolling with Josh Kelly as the guy who's going to get the first opportunity and may have the longest relevance in this backfield. That's my first guy to look at just because of the fact I think he's going to get the start to begin things. He's going to get probably a slight majority of carries over Justin Jackson, but I'm not sleeping on either one of them, but I'm also not running to the waiver wire to get either one of them. I don't think either one's very effective. I think they're going to look for Justin Herbert to throw the football more just because of how good he's been. And I don't think they're going to rely on either one of them specifically. I think it's going to be pretty much a split backfield until we see Austin Eckler come back.
Yeah, and obviously, like if you are super in need of running backs, I do think Josh Kelly probably had the higher ceiling. And the reason I say that is because Justin Jackson's been on this team and he's had the opportunity to take over the starting job. And I feel like if they wanted Justin Jackson to be their if they wanted to lean on Justin Jackson, they would have already. They wouldn't have brought in a guy like Josh Kelly. So I do think that just the Chargers coaching staff in general probably would prefer to. It's probably wants to lean on Josh Kelly more. You know, I'm saying that as a complete outsider, but so I would say Josh Kelly to me probably has a higher ceiling.
The signs point that way. Josh Kelly's got the backup touches to start this year as it is.
Yes.
So I would expect Josh Kelly to be the one to move into that starting role. Obviously not getting as much of a snap share as Austin Eckler does, but so it'll be much more split. But Josh Kelly is going to get the first crack at it without a doubt.
All right, I think those are the two big ones. I mean, obviously, if you were really invested in that Buccaneers tight end corp, you probably would want to get Cameron Brate, but
right. I am a little bit worried about Mike Evans. I don't know what kind of health he's going to be in. Obviously, that receiving core is kind of dismantled and fallen apart after the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, right.
Godwin missed multiple weeks. Now Mike Evans hurt. If you're desperate for a wide receiver going into this week, or even a maybe a really cheap play, are you grabbing one of the Buccaneers' third receivers on that roster to try to see if you can, steal one and steal some big numbers, because maybe Mike Evans is used as a decoy, or maybe Godwin's used as a decoy if he comes back? Are you looking to try to stash one of those third wide receivers in the Bucs in case to maybe see what happens, or play him in DFS as a cheap play?
Absolutely. I mean, if you just look at the I'm pulling up the Buccaneers box score from last game real quick. If you just look at their box score, you will see that they spread the ball around. Scotty Miller, 83 yards and a touchdown. I think Cameron Brate is going to factor in a lot more now that O.J. Howard's hurt. But yeah, obviously Scotty Miller is a guy that you want to grab in that wide receiver core if you are either if you're a Mike Evans or a Godwin owner and you're looking for that insurance, or in general if you're in need of a wide receiver. So yeah, I think I don't know how available Scotty Miller is though. That's
very available.
Is he very available?
Yes, I believe so. I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can pull up what I was looking at.
By the way, Brian Hoyer got pulled in this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's not good.
Yeah, he's available in about 89% of ESPN leagues at least.
So he is very available. He's a guy I would actually potentially look at to pick up this week, going into next.
Yeah, but he had 80. This is his second straight game with 83 yards. He had 73 yards in week 1 against New Orleans. So he produces.
Question for you before we move into our segmented parts of the episode.
Yeah.
What do you make of Kenyon Drake moving forward? What do you have any faith in this guy? Are you worried about him losing his job? I know he was banged up this week. The thing is, Kenyon Drake looked very good last year. He did. Once he got to the Cardinals, he hit the ground running and he looked great in week 1. The one thing I am worried about with Kenyon Drake is that leash may actually be short because of how good Chase Edmonds was last year when he was called upon.
Yeah.
So I am worried about that aspect of things and how short this leash may be for Kenyon Drake. And I am, as a Kenyon Drake owner myself, I am hitting the panic button here because he's not been effective since week 1. He's not been very good at all. And now he's also banged up. And when Chase Edmonds gets the opportunity, he tends to hit the ground running with it and run off. So I am quite concerned as a Kenyon Drake owner, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well.
Well, I like to preface it by apologizing. The last 3 weeks now, I have made Kenyon Drake my start of the week against Washington, against Detroit, and against Carolina. You cannot ask for a much more favorable running back slate.
Carolina defense has been pretty mean to running backs. That Carolina defense has been mean to a lot of matchups. I was looking through the matchup calendars, and they've not given up a lot of points to anybody. Like in terms of just fantasy points. Obviously, their defense isn't great. But hang on, let me see something here. They've just not been. I mean, okay, to running backs maybe they've been a little bit easier.
Yeah, but I said they've given up a lot to running backs.
Running backs, yes, they've been easier, but quarterbacks they've not been friendly, and that's probably because the running backs do so well.
Yeah, but anyway, so as I was saying, you can't ask for a more favorable slate of games for running back. And seeing how poorly Kenyon Drake has performed, obviously he was a little bit banged up this week against Carolina, but I'm off the Kenyon Drake train. I know he plays the Jets and Dallas, which is another 2 very favorable games for running backs. You're not going to see him my start of the week right now until he proves otherwise. If I had him, I'm benching him until he proves otherwise.
Boy!
I'm even going so far as to I'm recommending Chase Edmonds in waivers this week.
All right, I like it. All right, well then, let's go ahead and move on into our waiver wire here.
He has lost me enough money, Nicholas. All right.
I don't disagree. Oh man, God. Let's start with this waiver wire here. I'm gonna kick things off with another running back and a couple running backs actually. I'm gonna do that duo of Josh Kelly and Justin Jackson. Josh Kelly being owned 40%.
We're starting with the running back?
Yeah, I'm going to start with running backs.
Interesting.
Josh Kelly being owned in 44% of ESPN leagues and Justin Jackson 8.8%. I really have no idea what this backfield's going to look like. I do expect Josh Kelly to get the first crack at things, but he hasn't been effective. And plus he's had the fumble issue. So maybe Justin Jackson, they start to lean on him a little bit more as a stopgap until Eckler comes back. I don't love either one of them, but if you are desperate for a running back, that's a route that you could potentially go here.
Wait, so you're doing waivers right now?
Yes.
Okay. I was ready. I was geared up for starts and sits. So I'll just continue the train of thought then. I'm recommending Chase Edmonds. He's owned about 34% of leagues right now.
I mean, it was a perfect segue.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? You teed it up and I hit it out of the park.
But like I said, Kenyon Drake, he looks like he may be losing his grip on this starting running back position. Plus, it looks like he got hurt in week 4. Chase Edmonds has just looked better. I'm grabbing that and taking the wait and see approach. He could take over this backfield. So I'm looking at Chase Edmonds at the running back position.
I agree with you. I'm very concerned as a Kenyon Drake owner. And looking at my roster, I'm definitely going to be looking at if Chase Edmonds is available in my league. I'm looking at probably picking him up because I'm scared. Because Kenyon Drake is a big running back for me. Considering my next running back, I believe, is Zach Moss, I'm in trouble.
Oof.
Yeah.
Do you have another running back start or no? Or another running back waiver?
Nope, that was it. That was
Dearness Johnson's my other one then.
Well, Dearness Johnson, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, 13 carries for 95 yards. Chubb's out 6 weeks. I still think Kareem Hunt's going to be the leader of the backfield, but Dearness Johnson's going to get enough work to warrant rostering for the next 6 weeks. Absolutely,
and he may even get you a touchdown, which obviously big bonus at that point.
Yeah.
Going on to wide receivers here. My number one guy to target is going to be T. Higgins for the Bengals. He's only 25% owned in ESPN leagues. I know we've thrown him out in pretty much every week, but it continues to remain true. I don't understand why people aren't listening to us, because please go and sign this man. Pick this man up.
I'm going Tim Patrick. So injuries to KJ Hamlin, Noah Fan basically have paved the way for him to get looks, and he's capitalized. He's had 6 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. So I think Tim Patrick has a bright future in this backfield, at least for this season.
Don't disagree with you. I'm going with a guy who maybe not a waiver pickup, but a free agent pickup, definitely, especially when you're pretty deep at receiver and you're willing to wait. Laviska Shenault.
Yeah.
27.8% owned. He's the wide receiver for the Jaguars. He had 86 yards in week 4, and he's starting to look like he could be a big-time breakout guy. I like him moving forward. I think he's got a big opportunities. He's slowly but surely grabbing himself more and more of a target share in that receiving core. So Laviska Shenault is a guy I'd be looking at this week.
Real quick, for QBs, for some reason people still aren't picking him up. He still looks to be available in about 85% of leagues. Someone go grab Justin Herbert, please.
Yep, that's the only QB I got.
Why haven't you guys picked him up? Yeah, you should have picked him up after week 2.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you see a rookie quarterback come on, and is there any doubt that he keeps the starting job moving forward? Because the dudes look fantastic, and Tyrod Taylor can take his sweet-ass time coming back because they ain't missing him. I know that they said that Tyrod Taylor was the starting quarterback moving forward, and once he comes back, he's still the starter. Well, I don't think that's true anymore, and it definitely shouldn't be the way your rookie's playing.
No,
so
sir.
I would absolutely be rostering Justin Herbert right now and for the future.
Moving on to tight end. I got one and one only.
I don't have,
and that's just because we've recommended him already. Mo Alley Cox.
Okay, all right.
He's only 33% owned. He's had 8 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown. Sorry, 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks.
That's pretty good numbers.
2 straight games with touchdown from Mo Alley Cox.
Anytime you got a tight end that's looked at in the red zone and gets a big time target share, obviously Phillip Rivers is a guy who loves his tight ends. He always has. Considering he had Antonio Gates in his career. I like to think that Rivers helped Gates a little bit, but the dude's a Hall of Famer. So, but I do think he's making Mo Alley Cox look like one of the higher end tight ends in this league. So I'd absolutely be looking to grab him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starts and sits.
Let's hammer it out.
Let's do it. Right. Do you want to start things off?
Yeah, let's kick it off with the QB position.
Alrighty.
I'm going Ben Roethlisberger against Philly.
That's my start of the week.
Philly has allowed 579 yards and 5 touchdowns over the last 2 games. That's a lot. And Ben Roethlisberger's got weapons to punish Philly even further. It's the first time for me to recommend Ben Roethlisberger on the show, but I think it's going to pay off.
I agree with you 100%. That Philly defense is absolutely god-awful. The NFC East is terrible. My God. What a dumpster fire. 3 wins combined? Man.
Do you think this is the first time is it possible for someone to win the division and get a top 5 pick?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm honestly, this is the worst division I've ever seen in my lifetime, and that's no joke. I mean, I saw the 7-9 Seattle Seahawks, I believe, win their division one year and go to the playoffs. So this division's absolutely terrible. I don't know who's the best because right now Philly's in first place because of their tie to the Bengals. That's rough, real rough. But my next start at quarterback, because my first one was Ben Roethlisberger, my first start is Ryan Tannehill against the Bills. I know the Bills defense has looked actually not even that good. Let's be real. They haven't looked that good. They looked good against the Jets, but other than that, they gave up a lot of points to Ryan Fitzpatrick and a lot of points to Jared Goff. They've been beaten up by by a couple of quarterbacks who really aren't that good, and I think Ryan Tannehill may be the best quarterback they'll have faced so far this year. So I think Ryan Tannehill this week is a guy that I'm really starting to like a lot. I've said it about Ryan Tannehill this year. I love him. I think he's going to continue to be good, and I think that this year, the week against the Bills, with game flow as well, being one that's probably going to be a good scoring matchup, I'm liking Ryan Tannehill going up against the Bills. Sits? Or do you have another one?
No, I have another one. It's kind of an obvious one, but Dak Prescott against the Giants. I don't even comment. All right, going to sits. My sit is Baker Mayfield against the Colts. The Colts are allowing on average 175 yards to the QB position through the first 4 weeks.
Derek Carr also had a great game against the Bills. Just saying.
You said what?
Derek Carr also had a great game against the Bills. Just saying.
Colts. Oh, Bills. Okay, you're talking about the Bills. Yeah. So that's the Colts. The Colts secondary is legit. Might be the best secondary in the NFL right now. I'm sitting there.
The Colts defense is the best in the NFL. They in points allowed, everything. They're stupid good.
Yeah.
They are stupid good. My top sit this week. Jesus, my top sit this week is Matt Ryan going up against the Panthers. I mentioned that the Panthers are a tough team for quarterbacks, and that remains true. They beat up on Kyler Murray this week, a guy I pegged as probably a top 5 QB. Well, it ain't looking that way. He's had some tough matchups, but the Panthers shut him down. They held Justin Herbert down. They didn't allow Tom Brady to do a whole bunch. They've looked pretty damn good against quarterbacks this year. I know that run defense is terrible, but against quarterbacks, they don't allow a ton of points. So I'm going sit Matt Ryan go up against the Panthers this week.
Wow. All right. Let's move on to running backs.
You don't have another sit?
No, just one sit for quarterback.
I do.
Oh, go for it.
I have sit Tom Brady against the Bears. Bears defense also not friendly to quarterbacks. Very difficult defense to score on. One of the best in the NFL. And I know Tom Brady had a massive week this week. Well, I'm going classic up-down theory.
Classic up-down theory.
A really tough defense against the Bears here. So I don't like Tom Brady's matchup at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go to running backs.
My start of the week at running back is someone we already talked about earlier, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Raiders allow an average of 5.5 yards per carry to starting running backs through 3 weeks. It was actually like 6.5 before this past Sunday. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a bounce back game finally, and I think the game script will be in his favor as well. So
my start this week at running back is going to be James Robinson up against the Texans. The Texans are a total dumpster fire this year. The defense is god awful. And they just fired Bill O'Brien, so things are probably going to be a mess in that locker room. So I'm looking at James Robinson in probably a lot of DFS leagues this week because I think he'll be pretty cheap, a very high value play. So I like him a lot.
Yeah. My other start of the week is going to be Todd Gurley against the Panthers. I know they kind of shut down Kenyon Drake, but I'm still not buying that run D. Sorry. And the game script should be pretty heavily in Todd Gurley's favor. So I like him to get a pair of touchdowns this week and at least 80 yards.
My next start is going to be Devin Singletary against the Titans. Titans defense or run defense hasn't been that great. They've allowed quite a few points to running backs. I like Devin Singletary just because I don't think Zach Moss is quite healthy yet, and I don't think he's factored enough into that offense to really take any kind of touches away from Singletary. So I think they'll lean on him this week, and I think he's going to have a good one.
Moving on to sits, unless you have another start.
Nope.
All right.
That was it.
Alvin Cook against Seattle is my sit of the week.
They're tough against running backs, man.
Yeah. They honestly haven't even faced that strong of running backs. So, like, they look better, in my opinion, than they actually are. But you factor in they held Zeke to 34 yards on 14 carries in week 2. And that alone is enough to scare me away from Dalvin Cook in this matchup. Plus, this is a game where I don't think the game script is going to go in Dalvin Cook's favor. So
I agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot of passing this week in that one. My sit of the week is going to be Miles Sanders against the Steelers. Teams need to learn. You can't run on that Steelers defense, and that's going to continue this week. I don't think Miles Sanders with that dumpster fire team in Philly is going to do anything this week. So I would definitely be sitting Miles Sanders.
All right, moving on to wide receivers.
I have one more.
Oh, okay.
Darrell Henderson against the Washington football team. Their D-line's pretty good. They've been tough against running backs, and Darrell Henderson really doesn't have that backfield locked down entirely. So
not anymore.
Nope. I sit both running backs for the Rams this week. Both of them.
Nice. All right, moving on to wide receivers. My start of the week, DK Metcalf against Minnesota.
I'll do you one better. Both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf against Minnesota.
I can see. That's what I initially had, and then seeing how non-existent Tyler Lockett was on Sunday, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't recommend him.
Okay, but he scored 3 touchdowns the week before.
He did. But
which I'm going classic up-down theory on a 3 week in a row. I'm going Tyler Lockett big time this week.
But Minnesota's allowed 3 Sorry, not 3, 4. They've allowed a 100-yard pass catcher in every single game this season. So, yeah, I'll look for one of those two to be 100 to cross the 100-yard mark in week 5.
I've got both these.
I'm putting my stake in Metcalf, but Lockett and Metcalf, neither of them is a bad play.
I will probably take the cheaper one in DFS.
Which is normally Metcalf, but it might be Lockett this week.
It might be. I don't know. Lockett's big game 2 weeks ago really kind of pissed me off because I went Metcalf that week, and then I went Lockett this week, and it screwed me entirely. So, you know what? I don't know who to go. But I do think that Lockett does have a big game. I think both of them have a big game. I expect at least one of them to be over 100 yards and one of them to have multiple scores as well against this Vikings defense because their secondary is straight up doo-doo.
Yeah.
I have my next start here because I did have Lockett Metcalf, but my next start is going to be another pair of guys, and it's from the same game, just the other side of the football. I'm going Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson.
I was going, Adam Thielen was mine. Yep, that was my next one.
I like both. Both of them have a role in this offense, and both are big play kind of guys, and the Seahawks secondary is not any good at all, and there's going to be a ton of passing in this football game, and that means big points for receivers. So I like both Thielen and Jefferson to put up numbers this week.
And if that didn't convince you, they allowed... Well, the Seahawks allowed 100 yards to Devontae Parker this past week, 200-yard receivers against the Cowboys. Edelman had 179 yards in week 2, and they allowed 300-yard receivers to Atlanta in week 1. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will.
Oh, yeah. That's why I like both of them, because clearly they can't cover anybody on the football field.
I'll throw one more up, though. I'll go Robbie Anderson against Atlanta. Carolina's really going to have to air it out to keep up in this game, and I think Robbie Anderson is going to be the likely beneficiary because he's looking like Teddy Bridgewater's favorite target. So I think he's going to be the beneficiary of game script and just the fact that they need to air it out.
I've always liked Robbie Anderson, even when he was with the Jets. I've always thought he was an underrated receiver. But going to sits here, I've got my sit of the week. Because I gave 2 receivers in each of mine, I went Chris Godwin and Mike Evans versus the Bears.
Oh, it's cheating.
Why is that cheating?
Because they're hurt.
That's why. I expect at least one of them to play, and I don't like it. I would definitely lean away from the Bucs receiving core this week because of the bad matchup against the Bears, and I really don't think they're going to be 100% healthy. Even if Godwin or Evans plays, I don't think either one of them are going to be fully healthy, and I don't like the matchup at all, so I would sit both of them this week if I could.
I'm sitting Odell Cornelius Beckham Jr. this week.
Is that his name?
Yeah,
I did not know that was his full name. I did not know his middle name was Cornelius. So is he OCBJ then?
OCBJ.
Okay.
But and I basically just going against Indy. This is my notes. Please see notes on Baker Mayfield.
That's also my next set of the week. I know the Browns had a massive week this week, but I don't see it happening against the Colts.
Yeah. Let's go over to the tight end position.
I've got Tyler Higbee going up against the Washington football team. Their D-line's good, but they don't cover tight ends that well. It's a solid matchup for Tyler Higbee. He's a guy who Jared Goff likes to throw the ball to, and I think that's going to happen this week. And I think he's got the potential to score here this week. So I like Higbee.
I got Mo Alley Cox, the guy we mentioned earlier, against Cleveland. The Browns have allowed 4 tight end touchdowns through 4 weeks, so I'm looking for him to find the end zone for a 3rd straight week.
If you're looking for a guy who really hasn't, performed up to what we would hope he would, but I do think has a very solid matchup this week, is Evan Ingram going up against the Cowboys.
Ooh.
Cowboys defense is garbage, just everywhere on the field, and anybody who I think is a legit threat to do something has a good shot against Cowboys, and that's why I got Evan Ingram here. He could be a flyer play, who knows. Sits though, Zach Ertz against Steelers again. Dumpster
He's
fire
been off
Philly.
in general this year.
Look at the quarterback, look at that team, but dumpster fire offense in Philly and defense, and that Steelers defense is absolutely brutal against everybody. So it's tough. It's going to be a tough week for Zach Ertz.
I don't know how they won that game. Like my prediction came true from last week to bench every Eagles player you have because none of them did well.
No, none of them.
But they somehow found a way to win that game.
I mean, it helps when you're playing against a 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. My sit of the week is Hayden Hurst against Carolina. Panthers D, we've not been really stingy against tight ends. They're allowing an average of 36 yards per game to the position through 4 weeks. And they've actually allowed 0 starting tight ends to score a touchdown. The only tight end touchdown they've allowed through 4 weeks is Arizona's backup tight end, Jordan Thomas.
Yep. The Panthers defense against the pass has actually been pretty solid all across the board. They don't give up a lot of points to quarterbacks. They shut down tight ends, and they're pretty stingy against receivers as well. So I also have Hayden Hurst as a sit this week. So watch out for that Panthers pass defense.
Any DST streamers?
I do, actually. I don't love any of them, but I do think there's some possibility here. I like the Pats up against the Broncos.
Yep, I had in my notes New England starting Brian Hoyer, but may not be anymore.
I got the Pats up against the Broncos because the Broncos offense to start is trotting out Brett Rypien.
Oh, there you go.
And that is never a recipe for success.
Oh, so you're taking the Pats against the Broncos?
I am
taking the other way.
Fun fact: I've got them both.
Oh,
I've got both on here. Both the Broncos against the Pats and the Pats against the Broncos. Game flow there is going to be a snooze fest.
Yeah. Because I have Broncos against New England, mainly because that New England defense is starting with Brian Hoyer, or offense, sorry, and it actually might be they're starting Jarrett Stidham. Either way, I'll take whoever's going against that team. My other, or I shall let you go. I just went.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go Cowboys against the Giants. I know the Cowboys defense has been terrible, but
they'll be cheap. That's for damn sure.
They'll be very cheap, and I think this is a defense that's going to have a high floor. At least, because I don't expect the Giants to score much.
I kind of agree with you on this one. And my next one is going to be just because the Giants' offense is terrible. But my next one's going to be and this is another weird one that's going to be real cheap, the Dolphins up against the 49ers. The 49ers offense managed to make the Eagles' defense look halfway decent. They're trotting out backup quarterbacks left and right with Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. I believe Beathard's going to continue to get the start, but neither one of them did any good. And if you can make the Eagles defense look good, you can make a kindergarten play camp look good. So give me that Dolphins defense against the Niners next week.
Did you see George Kittle's stat line from that game?
Oh my God, 15 for 183 and a touchdown. I have it up right here.
15 targets, 15 catches on 15. He caught all 15 of his targets.
I know.
God damn.
But
anyway.
I mean, nobody else really did anything for the Niners. I mean, Jerick McKinnon was the next best receiver, and he's a running back.
Nope. All I know is I would like to start any tight end that's going against the Eagles now. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, you can start anything against the Eagles defense, and you'd probably win.
Yeah.
But that's all the starts and sits I got. How about you?
That's. I mean, I had a couple obvious ones, but nothing that no streamers, no cheap ones.
No,
so
pretty straightforward this week. Yeah. So. That is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Andrew, thank you for joining me, and thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. If you're a Detroit sports fan or you just like to rip on Detroit sports, particularly the Lions, check out our other podcast, The Fan Report, also hosted by Detroit Sports Podcast as well. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report, and we will be back once again next week. So, Andrew, thank you for joining me, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.
See you.